Hello. When I explain the ways of tree ferns, of how they make a tree out of the fern rhizome, I always try to emphasize that organization of their vascular system does not allow them to perform the normal thickening of wood and bark. Moreover, bark is absent and only partly replaced by additional roots which cover stems of tree ferns. So what's going on? Why tree ferns are unable to make the same radial thickening of the stem as many surrounding trees? So basic answer is that leaves of tree ferns are too much connected with the stem. So you can even say that stem of ferns is made mostly of leaves. So ferns belong to one of group of vascular plants which made their leaves independently and made it from multiple branches fused together. So in a very deep times, all vascular plants on earth were leafless. And in the beginning of Carboniferous, or maybe in the Devonian period, leaves appeared independently in many groups of vascular plants. So ferns in particular made their leaves out of branches, and leaves of ferns still bear many characters which we used to have on branches, on stems and shoots instead of typical leaves of seed plants. Fern leaves are so similar to the shoots of seed plants, then they even receive a separate name. Very frequently it is recommended, instead of leaves, call this thing the frond, or fronds as a plural. So for example, Lygodium is a climbing fern which uses leaves to climb, and bracken, more normal example, is a fern which uses leaves as rhizomes. They grow underground. So in a stem of tree fern, most of vascular tissues belongs to leaves. And now look on the stems. They covered with some flat structures. These structures are leaf scars. So leaves of tree ferns must go away, like this one. So they have a separation layer here. And what is left when the leaf went out is the scar. You can see in a scar multiple smaller vascular bundles, which designate the place where vascular bundles from the stem went into the leaf. But what is more important, these scars covered more than 50% of the surface of the stem, which means that most of the stem is made by leaf basements, and they not allow stem to circularly enlarge itself, because leaves have a different goal. They are photosynthetic structure and they cannot perform the same thing as stems. So stems of ferns, in other words, are not quite independent from leaves. This is a very different picture of the stems of seed plants, which are much more independent from leaves and therefore can have their own behavior, for example, that radial thickening. If you cut the stem of tree fern, you will see that vascular tissues are several belts. So these belts will go into the leaf basements, some of them continue, some of these belts are intersecting or interweaving in a very complicated way. This is again non-radial structure. So all in all, this is almost no way to make tree fern grow normally, like we expect tree to grow. And it should replace that, while possible, radial growth with something else. It will make roots, it will try to make the crown as light as possible. Well, it is not living for the long time. Sooner or later, unfortunately sooner, much sooner than seed plants, this tree will break or die and will not live anymore. So this is the fate of tree fern, and what we observe is kind of morphological restriction. So very deep morphological restriction to go out of it, you should completely restructure the stem, which I think is not easy, or it is not possible at all. So this is the stem of tree fern, and I'm staying on Ishigaki Island, the island which belongs to Japan but very close to Taiwan, and also very close to North Tropic, almost tropical islands in the mountains of Ishigaki on March 28. Thank you.